Lions Rock Productions.
This is Jay Moore.
This is Greg Proops.
This is Jordan Harbinger.
This is Dexter from The Offspring.
This is Nathan
This is
East.
Sebastian Younger.
This is Rick Moranis.
This is Stuart Copeland.
This is Mick Gillette.
This is Andy Summers.
Hey, this is Skunk Baxter.
This is Gabby Reese.
This is Rob Bell.
Hey, this is John Leon Guerrero.
Hey, and this is Pete A. Turner.
And now, the Break It Down Show with John Leon Guerrero and Pete A. Turner.
And this is Mike Lipari subbing in for Pete as guest host. And we've got one heck of an album fight up for you. This is in honor of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame annual induction ceremony. We've got two inductees. Let's take it to Phil for the corner call. Phil.
Today's album fight is a 12-round matchup between two critically acclaimed albums. In the red corner, we have a concept album with socially conscious lyrics from Janet Jackson, with her fourth studio album from 1989, Rhythm Nation. And her opponent in the blue corner, with their abstract lyrics and densely layered sound, we have Radiohead, and their third studio album from 1997, OK Computer. Let's get ready to ramble. Take it away, judges.
That's right. We have Janet Jackson taking on Radiohead. Before you hear from the judges, let's hear Richard's pre-fight analysis. Richard.
This week's fight is the classic very, very popular album versus very, very critically acclaimed album. Not really a lot to talk about here. OK Computer ended up out of 13 categories, winning 8, Rhythm Nation winning 4, and there were 2 ties, which leads me to believe we're probably going to have a 7-5 advantage for OK Computer. I think it's going to be straight. I don't think it's going to be split this time. I think this is OK Computer is very, very special album. In fact, one of my parameters I use is a website called Rate Your Music, which is excellent if you ever want to kind of get an idea about an album. They have it listed as their number 1 album of all time. And this isn't critics, and this isn't like polls. This is literally people come in and rate albums, and it's the highest rated album of every album on that website. So anyway, I'm going to say 7-5. We'll see how the fight goes. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, it sounds like we're going to have another close one here. Let me introduce our judges. As I introduce you guys, just give a little bit of your pre-fight on this. Let's start with Brian Theis.
Hi. Yeah, this is really going to be a heck of a fight. I mean, Radiohead is just so solid. And then you got this Janet Jackson album that had 7 songs in the top 5. So I'm really looking forward to see how this plays out.
Thanks, Brian. And we have Todd Nemet returning to ringside again. Todd.
Hello. Yeah, I'm excited about this album fight. OK Computer, sort of a critic's darling monster kind of album. Rhythm Nation had like 2 zillion hits on it. And so, but completely different genres, kind of aimed at different audiences. So it'll be interesting to see how this goes. And
our third judge, Tony Alvarado. Tony, give us a little bit of a pre-fight.
Yeah, Mike, I'm really excited about this album fight. These are 2 albums that, 2 artists anyway, that I'm not really big fan of. And so this is going to be really interesting for me to see how these 2 stack up against each other.
I did a little bit of research on this. Both albums are considered to be somewhat of a concept album, although they weren't fully thought of as being concept albums at the time. Both of them also are on Rolling Stone's 500 Greatest Albums of All Time, with OK Computer ranking at 162 and Rhythm Nation clocking in down at 275. And both of them won a single Grammy. OK Computer for Best Alternative Music Album, Rhythm Nation for Best Video Long Form. So we've got some critical darlings / heavy selling albums. I don't think we have anything left to say except round 1. We have the Interlude Pledge plus Rhythm Nation taking on Airbag. Todd, you're up first.
All right, sounds good. So the Rhythm Nation is a really strong start to this album. So she's promising us a new world order, one that's based on rhythm and everybody moving synchronously. And it has that early 90s, late 80s kind of sound to it. When I worked at Tower Records back then, and every song that we played had that kind of whoop on the end of 4, that was kind of the, I guess, state of the art at the time. And this is just really strong. It's good. Orchestra hits. Never quite sounded so good. I really like this song. Airbag, it's interesting. I was reading about this, and they were trying to emulate DJ Shadow, and they kind of completely failed, which is it's funny because I never really, at least on the drums, I didn't pick up the DJ Shadow influence at all, and I'm a pretty big fan of his as well. It's a really good song. It's a weird way to start an album with I died in a car accident and I came back. It's sort of the sequel to Killer Cars, Not a great melody. It's such a strange song, but it's pretty good. But I think that Janet Jackson gets this one 10-9.
Let's see what Brian has to say. Brian, you're up next.
For Airbag, I really like the opening guitar licks on this song, and the guitar work throughout. It just sounds so great. You read about the way they chop up and they compress the drum sample and they start and stop the bass line. It makes you think that this song's going to sound choppy, but it doesn't. It just flows so well from beginning to end. Rhythm Nation, I know you mentioned the interludes. I didn't focus too much attention on the interludes. I don't think they add or detract from the songs they're attached to. Rhythm Nation, it's an ambitious song, socially conscious march about uniting the world through the power of dance. It's got a great funky hook and a couple of nice dance breaks in the second half, but it does get repetitive on the way out. I know she's trying for a rallying cry, but I think this song could use a bit of a trim. This was a close one, but I gave it to Airbag 10-9.
Okay, and finally, Tony, what do you have to say about round 1?
When we're talking about Rhythm Nation, I completely agree. That has that late 80s pop sound that you heard everywhere, right? And the first thing I thought of, like Bobby Brown and Belle Biv DeVoe when I was hearing this, just kind of that, like you said, just the style of it. The song is very catchy, and right out of the box, Janet Jackson has an agenda here that she's trying to push, and I like the idea. I really do. I like how music and dance have a way of uniting people, which is really cool. As far as Airbag goes, the intro got me really excited. I like the guitars. I put in my notes they're really good 90s sounding guitars. It had that kind of classic sound to it. Reminded me a little bit of Manic Street Preachers and the British alt-rock sound. Wasn't a fan of the end of the song. I thought it went a bit long. Didn't really care for all the feedback and the clutter at the end. But I give this one to Rhythm Nation. I thought that was a better song in this matchup.
Okay, so we got one round in the bag. Let's move on and talk about round 2. Another interlude TV plus State of the World versus Paranoid Android. Brian.
All right, for State of the World, we got another socially conscious effort. This one, it wraps those dance beats around some really dark imagery. Homelessness, drugs, crime, prostitution. She tries to end it on an up note, saying, can't give up hope now, let's weather the storm together. But she doesn't really offer any hows as to how that would actually achieve the objective. Outside of the dark subject matter, it really does have a great beat, though. Paranoid Android. Wow. It's a fun song. It's 3 or 4 songs kind of mashed together as a bit of a goof, but it is just fun to listen to. It has that nonsense operatic quality. Time-wise, it's a long song, but with the changes, I don't really notice the length. It's just fun to listen to. The guitar, the bass, the vocal, just going this way and that. It really is an accomplishment for a goofy song, and it takes the round 10-9.
Tony, what do you think?
Well, I've got that it's State of the World, another social call to action. But my challenge with this, I don't know if I was feeling this from what Brian was saying, is my challenge is it's very upbeat and very danceable, and just the imagery is just awful. And I had a really hard time with that. Like, I know that we can't expect Janet Jackson to have all of these slow, depressing songs, but I mean, it just seemed really out of place to me. When I got to Paranoid Android, I really liked the intro, and then the vocals started, and it was just I was immediately turned off. I didn't like the high notes at all. But what I really did like was all the time changes. I liked how it went to a slower pace and then back to faster pace. I really liked that a lot, and I thought that was able to overcome my displeasure with the earlier vocals. So I gave it to Radiohead 10-9.
Todd, what are your thoughts?
Interesting. Yeah, I forgot who mentioned Manic Street Preachers. I lived in England for a year, and it was the year right after this album came out, OK Computer, and I had a little Sony Discman And the 2 CDs I carried with me everywhere was OK Computer and Manic Street Preachers, that the one with If You Tolerate This on it. So I just thought that was funny that you put those two together, because that was like pretty much all I listened to in 97 and 98. Anyway, Paranoid Android is great, right? They're like trying to do an Abbey Road kind of thing, or a Bohemian Rhapsody kind of thing. The difference being, as someone else pointed out, different time signatures. They also consciously use keys that clash against each other, like a C and an F sharp or something like that. So it has these really jarring transitions, as opposed to trying to make it smooth and not notice it. It's like, whammo in the head. I love that song. It always reminds me of like flying into work and you're pissed off at everybody and you want to put them up against the wall and tell them they look ugly, and it's just so great. Like, there's so much bad energy floating around, and then at the end it all kind of turns inward and he's like, oh no, rain down on me, and the panic, the vomit. And so I love this song. I love everything about it, just the way it transitions, the way the lyrics are just completely like scribbles. And so that was easy for me to give. So it was up to Janet Jackson. So it starts off changing channels, which is like, I think The Wall did that 10 years before. And I'm slightly more in favor of the production decisions here, but that's not than the last song. That's not saying a whole lot. I couldn't, like you said, sort of there's this upbeat dance, and then there's these kind of dark lyrics. And Jimmy Jam, I read in an interview, was trying to do a kind of a what's going on kind of thing, like a Marvin Gaye thing. And so that kind of helped me unlock it a little bit. And this was the last out of 8 singles from the album, which is kind of amazing, But all in all, I gave it to Radiohead, Paranoid Android, 10-9.
Yeah, I love Paranoid Android, I have to say, even though I'm supposed to be hosting and not judging. Any song that references Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy and Marvin the Paranoid Android is a winner in my book. I'm on Chrome too, it shouldn't matter. Okay, moving on to round 3, another interlude, Race plus the Knowledge versus Subterranean Homesick Alien. Tony, you're up first.
We are in a race between education and catastrophe.
All right, sounds good. So the Knowledge, we have another upbeat call for social justice. I recall the line, you don't find the knowledge in a pipe, too many lives go up in smoke. And I was like, okay, that sounds pretty cool. Catchy melody. And one of the things that I noticed is on this hip-hop album, the electronic drums, we've talked about other albums where the electronic drums didn't work very well, but this album, they work really well. I thought this song was pretty solid. I was waiting for her to tell me to stay in school at the end, but it is what it is. Now, Subterranean Homesick Alien has a solid alt-rock melody. Guitars sounded great. I like when York says, "Take me on board their beautiful ship, show me the world as I'd love to see it." I thought this song fit really well on the album, and I actually listened to all the songs in this fight a couple of times, and the first time I heard this song, I really, really liked it. Based on that, I gave it to Radiohead 10-9. It was a solid track.
Okay, Todd.
All right, yeah. So the Knowledge, it's like lyrically very unsubtle. Let me say, there's part of prejudice, no; ignorance, no; bigotry, no. It's like it's very. I mean, I don't think you get any less subtle than that. I like the music. Like you're saying, the drums actually kind of fit. I'm not a huge fan of synth drums, but they're really good. The lyrics it's just a little bit heavy-handed, like as the album's going on, it's getting a little bit more and more hand-handed. But I like the song right up until like the synth pads came in, and then it kind of lost me at that point. Subterranean Homesick Alien, again, it's another joke in the title, right? I love this. I'm a huge fan of alien abductions. I've read a lot of books about it. I've read a lot of stuff about experiencers and stuff. So I'm always a big fan. This is like right in my strike zone. And in this case, it's kind of a metaphor for alienation, right? And like you said, they show him the world. They teach him the meaning of life. He points him to stars, and then they lock him away. And he's like, it's like, that's great. I'm fine with that. Like, he's so alienated. And so it kind of gets to that theme of alienation. Like this album and the themes in it, as I listened to it again, it sounded so prescient. Like Janet Jackson's kind of optimism, and Radiohead's the opposite. I feel like Radiohead was kind of more on the money with that stuff. But anyway, the Subterranean Homesick Alien, plus the music, I like the little guitar flourish at the beginning. I really, really like this song. So I gave it to Radiohead 10-9.
Brian.
Subterranean Homesick Alien. I'm a huge Bob Dylan fan, so I love the obvious homage to the Subterranean Homesick Blues. This isn't as rambling as Dylan, but that's hard for anyone else to pull off. One thing I did notice was the use of pavement, which isn't a word you hear terribly common.
That's a good point.
Bob's song, he's got Mama in the basement mixing up the medicine. He's on the pavement thinking about the government. And here, Tom York is saying, I live in a town where you can't smell a thing. You watch your feet for cracks in the pavement. I got to think that was intentional.
Oh, absolutely.
Again, it's a nice, sweeping, beautiful Radiohead song with all these sounds mixed in. And it's going up against Knowledge. I like this one. It's got an edgier feel right off the bat. You got the breaking glass sound mixed in with the harder beats. And again, we're exploring social consciousness issues, but the vocals, they just don't do it for me on this one. I don't know, her voice just seems too soft and flat for the beats and the message. So I gave this round 10-9 for Subterranean Homesick Alien.
On to round 4 with interlude Let's Dance plus Miss You Much, a hit, versus exit music for a film. We'll have Todd start this one off.
Okay.
Todd.
So the interlude where it says "Get the point." All right, let's dance. So I guess we're done eating our vegetables with the social consciousness stuff, and now we're just gonna party. This song has a really good groove to it. It goes on like a little bit too long. I thought I heard like a live guitar actually in this, which was exciting. It didn't do much for me, but I was glad the lyrics were a little bit less heavy-handed though, and not trying to teach me something. Exit music for a film, that's like one of my favorite songs of all time. I was at a concert with my son and my wife, the international guitar concert, and this French kid, what's his name, Antoine Boyer, came up and did an instrumental version of this that was unbelievable and blew my mind. He's kind of brought out the chord changes and some of that stuff. I just love how it just builds and builds and builds. It starts off in kind of a Johnny Cash thing, and then it ends up with like, I don't know, seagulls and squawking and a choir, and it's so great. And I love the like, you have a spineless laugh, and we hope your rules choke you and your wisdom chokes you. It's like one generation kind of pushing out the other generation. You almost have to hate the other generation and reject them just to kind of do your own thing, whatever it is, whether it's killing yourself in Romeo and Juliet's case or going off to like, make your own way in the world. And I really like this song. I love the themes on it, and I love the music, and I love the lyrics. So this was Radiohead 10-9.
Okay, yeah. Tom York has an excellent performance in this song. Just have to throw that out there. As we move on to Brian. Brian, what did you think of round 4?
As far as Miss You Much goes, I really think Janet hits it on this one. Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, they really put together a hit. It went to number 1, and deservedly so. It's sexy and funky with just the right edge, and it really highlights what Janet Jackson does best. It's going against exit music. Janet has her strongest round yet, and she's got to face off against this beast. It was written for the credit roll of the modern day Romeo and Juliet remake. And the song, it's powerful and beautiful. The way Todd was describing it. It builds from that simple guitar and vocal to these sounds that Radiohead implements so well, and then add in the drums and the distortion as the vocals build. I really love that effect. Oh man, this was a close round. But I'm going to pick a winner, and it's going to be Janet for just coming into this round and doing what she does best. So I gave it to her for 10-9.
We have a disagreement finally. Tony, why don't you help us with the tiebreaker on round 4 here?
So I'm going to be boring here, and pretty much everything that Brian just said, I have exactly the same thing written. I liked exit music for a film. I thought it was just the lyrics and just got me all going, and we hope you choke. I'm like, whoa, this is really cool. But Janet Jackson, I thought, hit it just right out of the park with this song. She's off her social soapbox, and now it's time to start dancing, and it's just catchy, and it just goes. I really liked it. I gave it to Janet Jackson.
Okay, round 4 in the books, going to Janet. As we go into round 5, we have another interlude, comeback interlude, plus Love Will Never Do Without You. Nice long title, Pete would love it. Versus Let Down. Brian, you're up.
All right, Let Down. This song, it does a great job of relaying that feeling of being lost and trapped at the same time. The world's moving around without you, and you're not being able to do anything about it. Let down and hanging around, crushed like a bug in the ground. You got that deflated and defeated feeling, and the song brings it across so well. It's going against Love Will Never Do Without You. Originally, Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, they wrote this as a duet. They envisioned Prince doing it with Janet Jackson, which would have been pretty epic. But Janet, she proved more than capable of carrying it on her own in the studio, so they let her do it herself. It's got a nice groove, and you got Herb Alpert on the trumpet. And for me, it goes to Janet, her second win in a row, 10-9.
Okay, Tony.
So I liked the Janet Jackson song. I put on here "Janet's Back in Love Again." The verses are good. I liked it for the first 3 minutes, and then it just seemed like it was the second 3 minutes were just didn't even need to be there. And so I put in my notes that the first half of the song fits perfectly with songs 3 and 4, but the second, just the fact that it dragged on so long kind of turned me off after a while. Let Down, I thought that was a great song. I thought it had great sound. I also enjoyed the Crush Like a Bug in the Ground. Just you're just out there, just let down, just like the title says. I thought this was one of the best songs on the album, so I gave it to Radiohead.
Todd.
All right. Yeah, Let Down is one of those great songs. It's sort of like the mirror image of No Surprises, you know. No Surprises, you're like trying to escape it, and here you're just like stuck in it, you know. And when I lived in England, my manager was in Paris, so I'd take the channel a lot, and I would listen to this, you know, walking around with my Sony Walkman. This was such a weird song, like to see everybody kind of commuting and stone-faced and doing stuff. You know, it seemed to fit right in with the song. There's just kind of a quiet desperation of day-to-day stuff that I guess spoke to me at that time. You know, the thing about this song is, like, after the, I think, guitar solo, Tom York is like just in the right speaker, and it's kind of like he's outside of the song, like singing along, and then another Tom comes in on the left, and they start singing a duet together, and then a middle one comes in, and they all just start singing harmonies with themselves, and it's really transcendent. It's really an amazing moment. As I was listening to it again, that just like gave me shivers just to listen to it. It puts the whole song on a different plane. Really good. Love Will Never Do, which sounds like, by the way, Love Banana Fondue for some reason. So the backup singers, I wrote a note like Love Banana Fondue. Then I realized that was the title. I like this song a lot. It's like, you know, it's hot Janet. I actually wrote that it reminded me of Prince, Take Me With You. It had that sort of airiness, the similar kind of airy feel to it. So it's interesting that it was written as a duet for Prince. I really like this song. The only thing I didn't like was the drum machine, or the drum that sounded like a stapler or maybe a copying machine. That was just kind of weird. So I gave this one to Janet Jackson, 10-9.
Okay, yeah, that's...
Pete will fix it. That's
Pete
why he
will
makes the big
fix
bucks.
this. Okay.
Don't worry, Todd. I got you covered. No one will ever know.
Okay, heading into round 6. We have the first round without an interlude in it from Janet Jackson. Have Living in a World They Didn't Make versus Karma Police. This is going to be a tough round. Tony, you're up first.
So I was happy this song didn't have an interlude, because those interludes do nothing for me at all whatsoever. So that was kind of nice. The song has a good message, but I just think she just doesn't get the delivery. It sounds forced. And then one of the things when I started hearing this song and I'm listening to it, I had a big issue, because I was like, is Janet Jackson making a social issues album, or is she going to have a dance party? And I really don't know which way she's going this right now. And that bugged me a little bit. The Karma Police song, that was the first Radiohead song I remember hearing. And when I first heard it, I thought it was perfect. I love the lyrics. I love the tone. I love and I like how Tom York, this song, his lyrics, even though it sounds a little whiny at times to me in other songs, I thought this was great. I said that this is a song epitomizes 90s alternative. I gave this one to Radiohead. 10-9.
Okay, Radiohead getting off to an early start in round 6. Todd, what did you think?
Yeah, I'm very much in line with Tony's thoughts. So, Living in the World That They Didn't Make, or whatever it is. So I read in the notes that it took him 10 minutes to write the lyrics for this song, and it kind of shows. You know, it's just a little bit heavy-handed, a little bit like, I don't know, you know, Moon and June, and then, but yeah, and like you said, we're starting off with these kind of socially conscious dance songs. Now they're kind of filtering out. Now we got socially conscious on this side and dance on this side, and so this is where it's starting to kind of filter out a little bit. I'm listening to this and I'm kind of bopping along to it, and then all of a sudden there's gunfire and there's a shooting. I'm like, what the hell is that? It's like, it's kind of ridiculous. And but don't worry, Janet. It's 2019 now, and America has completely sensible gun laws that everyone supports. So don't worry. but it's also weird to hear her voice, like kind of unaccompanied on piano, it's like thinner than I thought. Her voice is like really thin. Like there's not as much production on it, and it sounds completely different. Anyway, so with that, Karma Police, overplayed, like you said, kind of the '90s poster child song, and but I still like it. Going to a party, getting annoyed with everybody, people are buzzing in your face. It's a very Gen X kind of a thing. I think we can all relate to that. The second part of the song, where he's like, for a minute I lost myself, it's so great, because when somebody says they lost themselves, really what that means is their mask slipped a little bit and they were exactly themselves. So, and the way he sings is just kind of pathetically fading away. And Karma Police, I guess, is chasing him around or something. But I love that part, because it's so pathetic and self-defeating, and it's just great. I mean, again, it fits in with kind of the alienation and dystopian kind of feel of this whole novel record. It's really good. Oh, and I had a question. Hitler hairdo, is that a reference to trimmed pubic hair?
Huh.
Or is that like an
That's
alternative kind of thing? I got like 5 slang dictionaries and thesauruses and stuff, so I probably should have gone to look this up. I just wondered if was that a reference that I missed, or am I reading too much?
I don't know.
Oh,
yeah,
all right.
That's over my head.
All right, well, really?
We'll need to look that one up.
Wow. Anyway, okay.
Where's Urban Dictionary when I need it?
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, and I won't explain what a German cornflake is. But anyway, so I gave this one to Radiohead 10-9.
Brian, follow that.
Okay, how do I follow that? Yeah, good luck. Thanks. I'm going to repeat a lot of what Todd said about the Janet Jackson song in this round. On my scorecard, I had her winning the last 2 rounds. And with this song, she takes that momentum and just kicks it right to the curb. This is a sweepy, weepy ballad. For an album that had 7 top 5 hits, this one didn't even come close. It's ambitious, but it's flat. Janet's vocals, they just don't have the oomph to make it special, and the beats don't help. And like Todd said, the schoolyard shooting news clip at the end, it just needs to go. It's not additive at all. The song is preachy enough without trying to shock us with tragedy. And it's going against Karma Police. And for Karma Police, let's see what else to say here. I really like the back and forth sounds that we get with this song. The Karma Police verses have that edgy alternative electro feel that you really expect from Radiohead. And then in the This Is What You Get verses, you got this real Beatle-esque poppy sound. I really like the way that effect plays off. And so this round was an easy 10-9 for Karma Police. Okay.
That ends round 6, and that also gets us to the halfway point of the matchup. Now, I got to say, OK Computer is one of my personal favorite albums. So I am kind of glad I'm not judging, because it would be hard for me to judge. So I feel for you guys. But as we look at the scores halfway through, Janet is trailing Radiohead by a bit of a margin, 8 points in aggregate. So Radiohead is definitely off to a comfortable start after the halfway point. What do you guys think so far halfway through this? Tony, first.
Well, I think the Radiohead album, like I said, I was never a big fan of Radiohead. Karma Police, the first time I heard that was on a compilation album or something, and I really liked it. But what I'm seeing is I'm seeing a lot of things from Radiohead that just, the sound appeals to me as an alternative rock fan, and I'm also seeing like how their sound in 1997 has translated. Like in some of these songs, I hear Muse a lot. Maybe just be the lyrics or the vocals, but I hear Muse, and Muse is one of my favorite bands. So I appreciate. On the other side, I think Janet Jackson is doing. I think she needs to pick something. She either we're gonna dance and have fun, or we're gonna write slow songs, or we're gonna write socially conscious songs. Pick something and put 12 of them on the album, because her going back and forth is kind of irritating, and I think it's hurting her in this case.
This episode of the Break It Down Show is brought to you by Lions Rock Productions.
That's us.
We publish, evaluate, and develop podcasts just like this one, consult others to build their own, and create associated content and content marketing strategies.
So if you're launching or expanding your social media presence, your business or your personal brand, or if you just want to take your media presence to the next level,
reach out to us on Twitter
at Pete A. Turner,
or at JohnLG69.
At the Break It Down Show.
There's 1,000 ways to get a hold of us.
Now enjoy the show.
I think it's hurting her in this case.
Okay, Brian, what do you think at this halfway point so far?
I think in 1989, the Janet Jackson album sounded so much better than it does today, and I don't. I blame the synth drums.
Yeah,
that sound really sounds dated to me. And Radiohead is on that list of artists for me that I can just put on at any time and listen to them for hours without growing tired of it. So this is a tough fight for Janice at this point.
Yeah, when I was listening to Rhythm Nation, I was also thinking about the time that it came out, and that was when the New Jack Swing was really starting up. And I really had trouble trying to figure out whether she was imitating or innovating, because I just don't know enough about what was released when at that time to know whether she was ahead of the curve or part of the curve with that whole sound.
I think that because they wanted her to do like Control Part 2, Control's a big hit, and she pushed back on that, and she's like, no, I'm going to make this sort of more socially conscious thing and kind of get into a Marvin Gaye zone. I think she was innovating as well. I think musically it's the same production team on all these things, or they all go to the same Mason meetings or whatever, and so it gets a similar sound. But I think she was pushing forward with things.
Yeah, for sure.
I think in the case of both albums, like the studio came to them and said, I want Control Part 2 and I want The Bends Part 2. And both of them said, screw that, I'm going to push this out forward.
This is definitely,
right?
definitely a move forward for both. I said definitely a move forward for both Janet and for Radiohead.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And, and I think in some cases here, Janet's reach is exceeding her grasp, right? Or it's the other way around. And OK Computer, they seem to have just matured on all levels in terms of production and harmony and melody and song construction. They really pushed forward and they shot it. I think Janet, you can feel the different themes kind of sifting out and going into kind of weaker songs by themselves when they were strong together. But I think these are both major pushes forward for both artists.
Let's get back into it and hit the second half with the Burford round. Round 7. Let's see if we're getting into any sort of ear fatigue here at round 7. Todd?
All right. Well, Fitter, Happier. I was really excited to hear Stephen Hawking on an album finally.
Fitter, Happier.
But this is album filler. Like this must be destroyed and it must be punished severely. It kind of mars otherwise a really great album. I do like at the end where they say a pig in a cage and antibiotics. That always makes me laugh. But this is album filler and it must be destroyed. So All Right is weird because a bunch of kids were just shot to death like 5 seconds ago and now we're dancing. It feels a little bit too soon for me, But if we can get past that, it has a great groove. It has the whoop on the end of the 4, which is great. It's really long, so it's a good workout for whipping your mullet around. And, it's good. It does that fading left and right. I think it drives Pete crazy, but I don't mind it quite as much. And towards the end, they get a little bit handsy there with the sampler, and I think that kind of a lot of these songs kind of get ruined in the back third, I don't know. It feels like a song that they would put on just as I'm leaving a party, so probably a pretty good song. So I'm giving this one to Janet Jackson 10-8.
Ooh, got our first knockdown. Brian.
Stephen Hawking couldn't save it.
To be honest, that's just
no. Stephen Hawking could
that's
not.
Just a computer-generated voice from a Macintosh. Stephen Hawking actually does do the intro to "Keep Talking" by Pink Floyd. If anybody actually listened to the Division album, "Fitter Happier," like I said, it's not really a song. It's a computer-generated voice from an old Macintosh. Apparently, Tom York had writer's block, and this is what he came up with. All Right. Yeah, this isn't a great song, but it's a song. The beats and the samples, they give you a lot of sounds. It plays well, and it's definitely danceable, and it has a good groove, and the vocals are okay. It gets hecka repetitive, but it's kind of catchy in a good way. So because it's a song and because it's kind of catchy, it gets around over not a song, 10-9.
10-9. Okay, so not a knockdown.
Not a knockdown from me.
Tony.
So I thought All Right was a good song. It fit. I'm starting to write down now where these songs fit on, like, with what other songs. Like, so I put that this song fits great with number 3, number 4, number 5. and I didn't think it fit very well with the first two. And my only problem with this song is I thought it was too long. A lot of times I'll listen to these songs when I'm running, and a good 4.5 minute song or 4 minute song gets me going, and then when it starts sneaking into 5.5 and it's just repeating the same stuff, it kind of drives me a little bananas. However, I agree with Todd. Fitter Happier is horror awful, and it makes me wonder what if Tom York would have actually sang this song and they would have put some sort of melody around it. I think it was a missed opportunity for them. I don't know if I'm sure they did this 100% on purpose, but I think it's a missed opportunity. I said 10-8 Janet Jackson.
Ooh, so a double knockdown round here in round 7. So Janet has Radiohead on the ropes. Let's see how Radiohead fights back in round 8. We have the return of the interludes with Hey Baby and Escapade, another hit, versus Electioneering. Brian, you are up first in this round.
Baby. Hey, baby.
All right, for Escapade, it's another fun song. It's happy and catchy. It's really a pretty simple composition, but I think at this point the synth dance beats, I can't even say that, synth dance beats, they're starting to wear on me. I like the song, but nothing really stands out to me except that it's fun. Electioneering, I really like the guitars on this track. You start off thinking it's an Old West showdown, and then you get into this nice, bluesy, punky, surfy flow. I don't know how else to describe it. I think it works great. It's definitely a political song. It's about Britain, but it's definitely relevant here and other places, I can tell you that much. It gets harder and louder on the way out before finishing with that same intro guitar. I can't talk this round. With that same intro guitar feel. All in all, it's a very good song, and it takes the round 10-9.
Okay, Tony, what do you think? Agree? Disagree on Brian's score?
No,
round
I
8?
definitely agree. Escapade has always been just one of those happy songs. It's just kind of it's fun. Like I said, catchy. It has a good groove. It's just a fun song. But Radiohead, when I first heard this song, I was impressed. I was like, I love the grungy sound. I love it. It sounded hard driving. I love the line, when I go forwards, you go backwards, and somewhere we will meet. I love that a lot. And so I gave this one to Radiohead 10-9.
Okay, so Radiohead again. Todd, are we going to make it unanimous?
Yep. So this is Escapade is a good song. It feels a little bit unfinished, like an early draft. So it's hard to get like spontaneous versus sounding like unfinished. And this, I think, leans a little bit more towards unfinished. I like the fancy reverse reverb drum. After the reverb kind of gated drums became the all the rage. Then this box came out. I forgot who made it, but it had all these different reverbs that were kind of impossible, like reverse reverbs and stuff. I think Prince used it quite a bit, and so I like that sound. It kind of aged better than all the other kind of gated reverb drum sounds. And also Janet does all the backing vocals. She sang all of her own backup, and it's really tight. This it's especially impressive when her with her own backing vocals. Michael McDonald has kind of nothing on her. It's really good. Electioneering is an interesting song. The opening riff, it feels a little bit uninspired. It feels just kind of like a dopey riff, like not even a good riff, like just kind of uninspired. And also the bridge and break it down part feels a little bit off to me somehow. But the part in between those parts where the band is just rocking full forward, they recorded like 80% of this album live. This gives you a really sense of what they're like, a good sense of what they're like live, and they are just smoking, and it doesn't even matter like what the song's about, what the lyrics are, just as long as it fits in with it, and they just sound so good, the 5 of them, and it's fantastic that they just cut loose. I think I slapped on an introduction, slapped on a bridge, but it's really good. So I gave this one to Radiohead 10-9.
Okay, so it sounds like Radiohead takes this round. Moving on to round 9. Interlude No Acid and Black Cat, another hit, versus Climbing Up the Walls from Radiohead. Tony.
Yeah, okay, so Climbing Up the Walls, I thought it had a lot going on. I liked the way that it was put together. It was very deathly and dark. I liked that. I didn't like the screaming at the end of the song, but that was about all that I didn't like about it. No, Black Cat, she wanted to do a rock song, and I thought she pulled it off. I thought it fit well here. I liked the chorus with its 2-word, 3-word lines. I liked the guitar. I thought it was quite a departure from the rest of the album, and I thought it played very well. So I thought this was one of her strongest songs on the album, so I gave it to Janet Jackson 10-9.
So Janet making a comeback. Todd, what did you think?
Yeah, this is interesting. So that interlude that says "no acid in this house," are they referring to a TB-303 that they couldn't find it, or do you know what exactly that means? I assume it's like no acidy sounds on this. This is a great, Black Cat is a great rock song. It's interesting. I read it was recorded through a Rockman, which is pretty great. I always wanted one of those. You know, I didn't have enough money as a kid to have one, but I always lusted after Rockmans. There's a couple different versions with different soloists and different remix. I found the Vernon Reid version, the guy from Living Colour, and oh my god, that is so good, and the solo is so much better. I love Vernon Reid just kind of throws all his scales into a gene sequencer, and then it's like, you know, and then he plays whatever comes out of that. It's so good. The album version is okay. That guitar solo it feels like a standard issue 1989, you know, guitar solo from that period, and kind of the riffs and the sounds. But there's something about Vernon Reid. It's just transcendent. Climbing Up the Walls. I gotta admit, I usually skipped over this song. It just has this creepy, weird, like kind of sex vibe or something. I never been crazy about it. I made myself listen to all of it. It's kind of like the less fun version of Inside of My Head, you know, from the earlier one, Pablo Honey. And the keyboard solo, it really reminded me of Richard Wright, keyboard for Pink Floyd. You know, I know that they take pains not to say that they're influenced by Pink Floyd or any prog rock, but it really sounded like a Richard Wright solo if you listen to it. This is a tough one, but I gave it to Janet Jackson 10-9.
Okay, so Janet 2. Brian, are you going to round it out with another Janet win here?
Yeah, I think I am. You know, Climbing Up the Walls, this song is so dark and spooky, and it gets more so throughout as they add in the vocal distortion. Yeah, it's about mental illness, and that certainly comes across. You know, the violins, the guitars, the crashing drums, they really bring in that submersive feeling, like you can't get out of where you are. Black Cat, wow. This is my favorite song on the album. When we were kids, my brother was more into dance pop, like Paula Abdul, Michael Jackson, Janet, and I was more into the harder stuff, metal, glam rock, rap. And I was making a mixtape of my brother's music, and when I got to this tape, this was the song that I picked. That guitar, you know, Janet and Jelly Bean Johnson, they made a rock song. They got nominated for a Grammy. I love the guitar and the overall rock edge of this song, so it took the round, 10-9.
Okay, yeah, you know what? I think that this is my favorite song on Rhythm Nation as well. I've always liked Black Cat, so I completely agree with the sweep here. Let's see if Janet can keep the momentum going as we head into round 10. Lonely versus No Surprises. Todd.
All right, spoiler alert, no. So lonely. It's just terrible. It made me laugh because they show like the rain and the thing, and then that dopey kind of drum thing comes in, and I laughed out loud when I heard that. It gets a little bit better as it goes on. Soledad is one of my favorite words. I'm not quite sure why, but I was excited to hear that in the lyrics, so that was good. But this song is terrible. I hate to say it. I mean, not that I could do any better, but it's terrible. No Surprises is a great song. It's about, you know, taking a break from life. You're calling sick, turn off your phone, you know, whether you're like calling it sick or maybe just ending it all in a suicide. It's like about taking a break from kind of the pressures. The lyric, a heart that's full up like a landfill, it's such a brilliant lyric. It's like, you know, kind of like the beginning of Fight Club, you know, where he's ordering on the toilet, you know, and it's such a great way to describe sort of modern life and you know, even it's worse now. The other thing I really like about the song is the solo. It sounds like a doorbell solo, you know. It sounds like a bunch of people ringing the doorbell or something all at the same time, and it's such a good song, and I like the stillness of it. So I gave this one to Radiohead 10-9.
Okay, Brian.
Yeah, I'm pretty much in the same boat with Todd. My notes for Lonely say, a ballad with synth pop beats. It makes me feel like I'm living in a timeshare sales commercial. I don't know how long the song is or really notice anything more about it, because every time I tried to listen to it, I would keep zoning out until I heard the bells at the beginning of No Surprises, which features a glockenspiel, which I think Pete would like.
Pete would love the glockenspiel.
I'm going to let Radiohead's own words speak for themselves on this song. Colin Greenwood said the idea was to first frighten everyone with climbing up the walls and then comfort them again with a pop song with a chorus that sounds like a lullaby. And then Tom York said, it's just the words are so dark. When we play it, we have to play it slow. It only sounds good if it's fragile. Okay, those two guys described it better than I ever could. The lyrics, they're so fatalistic, but the melody is so soothing. And this was a knockdown for me. I gave it 10-8 to No Surprises.
Ooh, knockdown. Tony.
This, like Todd said, there's no spoilers. She didn't keep her momentum. She has a great song with Black Cat, and then Janet gives us a slow down song about isolation and loneliness, and I just wanted to rip the headset out of my ear. It was awful. It just didn't work. I was so amped after Black Cat, and then I felt like the rug was pulled out from underneath me. And then No Surprises, I thought that was right up there on this album. And I'm not, like I said, I'm not the biggest Radiohead fan or aficionado. I thought this song ranked right up there with Karma Police. I thought this was a fantastic song. I gave this one to Radiohead 10-9. I thought that this was probably the second best song on this album.
Bold statement on such a good album, but I don't know if I would argue. Round 11. Come Back to Me versus Lucky. Brian, you're up first.
I'm going to start with Lucky. I really think they crushed this song. It's another dark song. And again, I'm going to lean on Tom York's description, where he says that the standing on the edge is like when a cartoon character is just off the edge of a cliff, but he hasn't looked down yet to see that when he looks down, he's going to fall and it's all going to be over. The guitar notes, then the choral effects, they bring that brooding sensation into the song so strongly. And then when you get to the Pull Me Out chorus, it feels brighter to me, like maybe there is hope. And for Come Back to Me, my notes say, didn't I just hear this song last round? Some artists, they can mix genres. Janet has proven that she can do it. Dance, pop, R&B, rap, and rock. She's the only artist who's been nominated for a Grammy in all those categories. But the love ballads, they just don't work for me. Especially with the production on this one. It's sweet, but it really misses the mark for me. And this one goes to Lucky 10-9.
Okay, 10-9. Tony.
So I thought Lucky was, I agree, I thought it was crushed. This just sounds like classic, iconic Radiohead. I thought it was just really, really good. The lyrics were good. It's the way that I looked at it is it seemed like both Janet Jackson and Radiohead slowed it down a little bit. And I thought Radiohead crushed it in this one. It was great. Janet Jackson song, not so much. So I gave this one to Radiohead 10-9. I thought they were so much better than Janet Jackson here.
Okay, so that's 2 for Radiohead. Todd.
Yeah, Come Back to Me. It sounds like a slightly better Thompson Twins song or Human League song, if that makes sense. For them, they'd be happy to put that out. For Janet Jackson, this is kind of on the lower end of her output. It's another slow song. I thought we were going to change the world through dancing and watching CNN or whatever, and this is, I feel, sort of betrayed at this point. This is the point of the revolution where people start turning on each other. So, wasn't crazy about it. Lucky is a great song. I feel like Lucky and The Tourist are kind of the two sides of the same coin. I always put those songs right together. I feel like this song is the prequel to Knives Out. This is the plane crash, and then in Knives Out, they all eat each other. So this is kind of part one, of a whatever. But anyway, I love this song. I would listen. I used to fly around a lot. I ran the European Channel when I lived in England, and like I said, this album was with me everywhere. And for some reason, hearing it on an airplane, flying back and forth to Sweden or whatever, this always grabbed me. Just talking about the plane crash and the wires and everything around you, and the guitar solo. It sounds like Neil Young to me. It sounds like kind of a mid-period Neil Young guitar solo, and
and it's kind of the theme is like we have all this technology and it's killing us, and like superheroes are disgusted with us. They're not going to get involved, and it's such a weird, dark, like crazy song. And even the single cover for it is a plane crashing. But despite all that, I give it to Lucky, 10-9 Radiohead.
So Radiohead takes our penultimate round, and that takes us to the final round. Radiohead and Janet will meet in the middle of the ring, tap gloves, and Janet's got some work to do. So for our final round, Tony, we're going to have you start it off.
So in Someday Is Tonight, Janet hits the hat trick, and not in a good way. She slows it down again, and the song is just... I thought it was just another clunker. It's 3 minutes too long. It's just... I didn't like it at all. I thought that she could have done a lot better in putting these last 3 songs together, and I think it shows in this fight. The Tourist, it's also slowed down, but like I said, they seem to make their slow songs work. This is another song that reminds me of Muse. I thought the vocals were really, really good, especially on the chorus. I wrote down that he's screaming without screaming, and like he's drawing attention to the words slow down and like putting a lot of importance to it and making me listen to it, but he's not yelling it, and I really like that. And then I also like how he said, "Hey man, slow down," and then he says, "Hey idiot," and it's just something that I've been known to do also when I'm on the road. I gave this one to Radiohead 10-9. I thought they did a bang on job here.
Todd.
Well, let's start with Someday Is Tonight. It's Janet, Barry White, Jackson checking in now. I kind of like the vocals. I like how it's kind of close up in the microphone and intimate. I have to admit, I got a lot of performance anxiety just listening to her, sing this. Wasn't quite sure I was going to be able to fulfill the expectations of the song. I like the muted trumpet solo at the end. It was like good to finally hear an instrument from the year 1814, so that was good. But I like the vocals. I wasn't crazy about kind of, I don't know, the production of it, the tempo, all that kind of stuff. Now the Tourist is similar, like Tony was saying, it's a slow song. This is such an interesting song where it's kind of like you're running around, you're hyped up, you're manic. Dogs are barking at you. People are asking you what the hell's wrong with you? Why are you running around? Slow down. And you don't get it. Everything seems normal to you, even kind of slower, like everything's easy and slow. So it's interesting how the song is like the perspective from outside. Like this guy thinks he's living in this cool bubble and everything's fine and he's in control. And then to everything else, everything outside is looking at him saying like, man, slow down, you're crazy. What are you doing? And it's a cool song. I can't think of another song that's kind of attacked this theme, but I really like it. I love it musically. I love that guitar solo. I love Tom York's vocals. It's like operatic almost. So I gave this one to Radiohead, 10-9.
Okay, Brian, take us home.
Yeah, Someday Is Tonight. It's another soft one. I'm starting to think that they made the last part of this album while reading a shampoo bottle. Wash, rinse, repeat. This one, it's clearly more sensuous, and I think it totally could have been sexy when done right. But honestly, her vocals sound a lot like her brother, and that with the lyrics is just creepy as hell, and I can't do it.
Even more so now, yeah.
Maybe that was it. Yeah, maybe that's why I was cringing.
The Tourist. So if you're like me and you listen to albums on repeat, this song is perfect. You have a song about a reckless driver, and then it comes back around to Airbag at the beginning, which is about a car crash. This is mainly a Johnny Greenwood composition, so it's a little bit sparser than what we've been hearing, but it's still so full of sound and imagery. I love the "Hey man, slow down, idiot, slow down." Yeah, it works for the idiot driving too fast. It also works, for the titular tourist who's likely rushing to see as much as they can without really taking anything in. And for me, it works for life in general. Sometimes you just need to step back and decompress. So yeah, this was an easy 10-9 round for the Tourist.
Yeah, I've always thought the Tourist was a great end to the album that starts with Airbag. It's just a great coda. We have a complete fight, guys. And we do have a winner. Before we announce the winner, however, let's get Richard's post-fight analysis. Richard, how did we do?
And it looks like the patent pending process really held up this week. We ended up with like an 8 rounds to 3 type average, which includes some knockdowns and stuff like that. not too terribly surprised, to be perfectly honest with you here. I'm going to say this now. I don't know if any other guys may agree with me. I think OK Computer is not only one of the best 12-round albums, I'm going to put it up there in the upper echelon of albums. I'd like to see it go up against some of the big dogs and see how it does. This is a fantastic album. It's one I've loved for years. If you don't know it, go and find it and listen to it. Radiohead isn't for everybody. I realize that. But once you realize, yes, it's a little bit pretentious. It's kind of supposed to be that way. Just listen to it and enjoy it. And I will tell you, the one kind of barometer I use for how great an album is or how great a band is go out and find covers of the songs from a particular album. And then you can hear, maybe you don't necessarily like sonically the way Radiohead comes off, but listen to their songs by somebody who may be more in the genre you like, and you're going to find how gorgeous their songwriting is. This is a very, very special album. It deserved the straight win. I'm real happy, real pleased. Back to you guys.
Thank you, Richard. Insightful as always. Looking at our scores, we have a unanimous decision here. It's the first time in a while. Radiohead takes it from Janet Jackson. Scores are Tony 115 to 112, Todd 116 to 111, and Brian 116 to 111. And even though I was just a CompuBox, I also gave it Radiohead. My score was 116 to 112. So, guys, is this a surprise as we're looking at round 10 of no surprises? Were there no surprises?
I was surprised at how one-sided it wound up being. But I really think it comes down to Janet Jackson was great at making hits. And she made, like I said, 7 top 5 songs on this album. But the album's 12 songs long. And those five non-hits really hurt her. And then she's going up against Radiohead. And the floor of Radiohead is just so much higher than the floor of most other bands. They can miss a little bit and still beat one of Janet's hits. So it was a tough one. They're both great artists, but at the end, I just think Radiohead brings more to the table, and it showed in this fight.
Todd, you said this was one of your favorite albums. So are you surprised at the outcome?
Yeah, I was trying to compensate for that, or listen honestly. OK Computer is so embedded in my head. I listened to Rhythm Nation and just compared it to that, so I didn't have to listen to the threaded playlist like I usually do. And I just kind of ran through it in my head, and then I listened to Janet Jackson's song. I have this concept of like the wall of different decades. Like the wall was the wall of my teen years, and then this was sort of the wall of my 20s, I guess you'd say. And Paul's Boutique was the wall of my 20s. This is like the wall of my 30s, and it really spoke to me. And and again, like I said, I think it holds up with the alienation and kind of the themes and life being horrible, and it's like a Gen X thing. And Kurt Cobain kind of went down that road and all that. And I admired Janet Jackson, somebody with less privilege and a different perspective, who's like, let's lift ourselves up, let's come together, let's do this and that. I feel like that's a harder thing to pull off, but I don't think she quite pulled it off. And I think you want to say, everything sucks, we're aliens, I wish aliens would abduct me, and I hate everything, and commuting sucks, and it's easier to hit that mark.
Tony, you said at the beginning of this that you really weren't a huge fan of either artist. So how did you come out of this? Any different view for either artist? And are you surprised at the outcome?
So I was surprised because I remember that Rhythm Nation had it seemed like hit after hit after hit. And then when I was doing the work here, I saw, I think it was 7 or 8 singles off of this album. And I was like, wow, this is incredible. But like I think Brian said, she was really good at making hits. And Radiohead, Radiohead's album from top to bottom, minus the Fitter Happier song, was great. I was impressed. It reminds me of how when someone says the phrase 90s alternative, that's the kind of sound that you hear. A little grungy, a little maybe a some good guitars, maybe something different, somewhere in the album, because it seemed like alternative bands were always trying to do something different. And so I was actually impressed. I'd never listened to OK Computer from front to back at all, and which is weird because I like alternative rock, and that album came out when I was 22 or 23, so I was like, I should have owned 7 copies of it. But I was happy with that album. Janet Jackson's album I thought was good. I thought it, the hits were hits. We talked about Black Cat being, so good, and we talked about I really liked Miss You Much, but from soup to nuts, man, Radiohead's album was superior.
Yeah, I gotta say, my experience with Radiohead, the first song from this album I actually heard was Subterranean Homesick Alien. I was familiar with Radiohead from Creep and High and Dry and The Bends and a couple other songs from The Bends already. So it wasn't my first time hearing them, but I heard Subterranean Homesick Alien and I just said, wow, this is amazing. This is the same Radiohead that did Creep. And I went out and I got this album and I listened to it so many times. I probably wore out the CD. So I don't know that I would have been as unbiased as you guys are. So I do appreciate all 3 of you guys stepping up on short notice to judge this. And this was one heck of an album fight and a lot of fun for me. First time hosting. I usually do the disclaimer when I'm a judge, but since I'm hosting, I'm going to farm it out. And who wants to do the disclaimer today?
I'll do it. Yeah, we're here to pick the best album in this fight, but we're also here to celebrate the music. And we want you guys to listen to both of these albums, give them a spin, give them a play on Spotify, buy them on iTunes if you're so inclined. We're here to celebrate the music, so let's all enjoy the music.
Well said. Couldn't have said it better myself. And once again, thank you guys. A couple of years ago, I didn't know any of these 3 gentlemen that have been kind enough to do this fight with me, and now I consider all 3 of them friends. That is one other thing that Album Fight does for us.
Yep.
So,
absolutely.
guys, thank you so much for taking time out of your Sunday evening to do this. I had a lot of fun. I hope you did too.
That was great. You did a bang on job, Mike.